The Indian Express, 27th of January 2023, Egypt contacted India for assistance in balancing the Chinese debt trap and growing its economy. Egypt wants India's assistance to avoid falling into the Chinese debt trap. The Indian Express has learned that Egyptian President Abdel Fattah El-Sisi has asked India for investments and involvement in massive infrastructure projects in his nation due to Egypt's ongoing economic crisis. El-Sisi was the primary guest at the Republic Day celebration on Thursday. According to sources, this has been a recurring conversation between the leadership of India and Egypt over the past 2 days, including with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. China has been establishing stronger commercial connections with Egypt during the time these negotiations took place. The joint statement that the two leaders released also reflected this effort, stating that both leaders welcomed the growth of Indian investments in Egypt, which are currently worth more than $3.15 billion. According to the statement, they pledged to promote the exploration of new commercial and investment prospects in each other's nations by corporations from their respective nations. Egypt welcomes the increase in Indian investment and pledges to provide incentives and facilities by the laws and frameworks that apply. India, for its part, underscores its support for this strategy by urging its businesses with the capacity to make investments abroad to take advantage of the investment prospects in Egypt, it added. Sisi underlined Egypt's desire to expand economic and commercial cooperation with Indian enterprises and joint investments during his meetings in Delhi with Indian leaders, including President Draupadi Murmu and External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. The Egyptian president reportedly stated that the country's mega-projects provide various investment options. The principal highlighted projects include the Cairo and Alexandria metro projects, the Suez Canal Economic Zone, the second Suez Canal Channel, and a new administrative capital in Cairo's suburbs, even though Egypt has not requested fiscal support. According to them, one of the primary topics highlighted was the development of the Suez Canal region, which encompasses a number of significant industrial and logistical zones. In the joint statement, it was stated that the Indian side can arrange for the master plan while the Egyptian side is considering the potential of providing a particular section of land for the Indian industry in the Suez Canal Economic Zone, SCEZ. At a meeting with the business community in Delhi, Sisi reportedly stated that Indian business could benefit from Egypt's advantageous location as a hub for manufacturing and re-export to several nations connected by his nation's free trade accords, particularly in the Arab world and Africa. Senior representatives from the External Affairs, Commerce, and Finance ministries also attended this conference. Trade between India and Egypt increased from $4.5 billion in 2018-19 to $7.26 billion in 2021-22. More than 50 Indian firms now have investments in Egypt, totaling more than $3.15 billion. Egyptian investments in India, however, total only about $37 million. Despite the difficulties brought on by the epidemic, the two leaders expressed pleasure with the level of bilateral trade, according to the joint statement. They expressed optimism that, by expanding the trade basket and concentrating on value addition, both nations could attain a bilateral trade target of $12 billion within the next 5 years, the report added. Additionally, Sisi has been courting Chinese investors and has traveled there 7 times in the last 8 years, including for the Winter Olympics in Beijing in 2022. Currently, $15 billion is exchanged between China and Egypt on a bilateral basis. However, Egypt is also dealing with a jump in inflation that has reached a 5-year high of 21%, resulting in high costs for necessities like milk, eggs, and basic food. In addition, the value of the national currency has decreased by over half in less than a year, hitting a record low of almost 30 Egyptian pounds to the dollar. The nation has also requested a bailout from the IMF for a 4th time in 6 years after receiving $3 billion over 4 years. In addition, the epidemic affected Egypt's tourism-based economy, followed by the Russia-Ukraine war, which impacted Egypt's foreign exchange reserves and food supplies. Almost 80% of Egypt's food grains were imported from Ukraine and Russia. Egypt's foreign exchange holdings formerly stood at $20 billion, but they are currently $34 billion. They have received around $8 billion in budgetary support from Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. India, which prohibited wheat exports, allowed 61,500 metric tons to arrive in Egypt in May last year. According to insiders, Sisi informed his counterparts in Delhi that Egypt is prepared to achieve industrial integration with Indian enterprises and foster their expansion through collaborations. According to sources, Indian and Egyptian enterprises would look into ways to increase their collaboration in pharmaceuticals, communications, information technology, and defense. Infrastructure, petroleum and natural gas, new and renewable electricity, energy, and agricultural products are other topics under consideration. Strong ties with Egypt, which has an important geostrategic location, are essential for India. Egypt is a significant political force in North Africa and West Asia, and the Suez Canal regulates 12% of world traffic. Additionally, it is the most populous nation in West Asia, opening a significant market and a route to Europe and Africa. Additionally, Egypt has bilateral trade agreements with important Arab and African states. There are compelling geoeconomic and geostrategic reasons for India to have a strong presence in Egypt, the sources added, especially in light of China's debt trap diplomacy.